You probably assume feeling scattered is a lapse in willpower. It isn't. The real issue is biochemical. This program provides a method to handle your brain's chemical balance, enabling you to overcome that disorganized feeling and at last establish a flow with your tasks. Your brain consumes a full 20% of your body's power. That sense of mental fatigue you experience is a genuine physiological condition, not simply a matter of perspective. We will start by exploring the uncomplicated practice Charles Darwin followed. He made progress by organizing his time into brief periods of concentrated effort, which allowed him to build momentum while step-siding burnout. Protocol 1. Unlocking progress by disengaging. What happens when you followed every step correctly, even managed your energy, yet find yourself at an impasse? You wrestle with an issue, but you can't establish a flow. The solution remains elusive. While your first impulse is to apply more force, the genuine answer is to cease your efforts. This isn't laziness when you intentionally step away from the task by going for a stroll without audio, doing the dishes, or gazing out the window. You're actually engaging a particular mechanism in your brain known as the default mode network. This system activates only once your attention shifts from external stimuli. Its primary function is to forge new links between distant concepts and old memories, frequently drawing on experiences that have been dormant for years. The breakthrough for your present challenge is rarely located in the place you're searching. This concept is far from novel. It's the very mechanism underpinning Albert Einstein's renowned thought experiments. His discoveries weren't accidental occurrences during his extended walks. By allowing his mind to wander from the issue at hand, he was engaging the precise network required for a breakthrough. He recognized that attempting to compel an answer only serves to keep it hidden. So, who truly advances? The person glued to a monitor attempting to brute force a solution? Or the individual who steps aside and allows their subconscious to process? When you're feeling fragmented and unable to proceed, the answer isn't greater exertion. It's calculated disengagement. You're not being idle. You are deliberately engineering the exact environment for an insight to emerge. Protocol 2. Forging lasting skills. There are times when the solution is to cease your efforts, and other moments when the only path to progress is through struggle. Struggle is not a signal to quit. It's the very mechanism of learning. Yet, we've been conditioned to view it as a symptom of failure. Think about it. You begin with momentum, then you weaken. The instant you encounter a barrier while acquiring a new skill, that sensation of going off course typically prompts you to search for an exit. Your brain undergoes physical changes when you grapple with a challenge slightly beyond your present skill level. Neuroscience has a name for this: productive struggle. This exertion triggers the release of a protein known as brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. While some refer to it as Miracle-Gro for the brain, that isn't its most significant aspect. So, how can you intentionally harness this friction? The genuine transformation is structural. When your brain receives signals from the cycle of attempting, failing, and adjusting, it begins constructing more rapid pathways for that particular ability. This is accomplished by encasing the pertinent neurons in a fatty coating called myelin, which can make a signal more than 100 times faster than an unmyelinated one. It's this process that converts awkward attempts into reflexive competence. Benjamin Franklin employed this method, unaware of the underlying science. To enhance his own writing, he'd review an article, make some brief notes, and then attempt to recreate the piece using only his jotted points. The difficulty of rebuilding the original argument was not an incidental part of the activity. It was the central purpose. He was doing more than just rehearsing. He was compelling his brain to forge the permanent connections that make information endure. That sensation of exertion is not an indicator that you're on the verge of failure. It is the feeling of your brain growing more powerful. Protocol 3. From fleeting to firm. Have you ever finished a chapter, marked up the important sentences, and felt a sense of accomplishment, just to find that a week on, the core ideas are gone? You recall the experience of learning, but not the information itself. This is the illusion of mastery, a feeling of familiarity that gets confused with genuine comprehension. To make learning permanent, you must do more than just reread the text. You need to compel your brain to pull up the information from memory without assistance from the source. It is a method from cognitive science referred to as active recall. This mental exertion isn't a symptom of weakness, it's the very mechanism of memory creation at work. The effort to retrieve information prompts a process known as long-term potentiation, which physically reinforces the synaptic pathways that make up a memory. It's analogous to converting a faint footpath in a forest into a paved highway. Each instance of forced recall carves the path deeper. This isn't merely a theoretical idea. A pivotal 2006 study by Roediger and Cargacki demonstrated that while rereading might be useful for a test in 5 minutes, active recall produces substantially better retention on exams taken days or weeks later. The group that had to struggle to retrieve the material retained it far more effectively than the group that simply reviewed it passively.
This is the way you solidify new routines. Don't just scan your nutrition plan. Challenge yourself. What are 3 nutritious snacks I can have? Don't simply glance at your exercise list. Ask, what is my opening exercise and what is the goal for my rep count? Forcing the response doesn't just locate the memory, it constructs it, strengthening it for the next time. Protocol 4. Unlocking your brain's power supply. Developing superior mental routines is pointless without the vitality to apply them. That mental haze making it tough to sustain your momentum isn't just a sensation, it's a tangible, physical state. Your brain's high metabolic rate generates toxic byproducts like beta amyloid all day long. This is why you struggle to get started. Your brain is quite literally trying to operate through the debris from the day before. So what prevents this refuse from accumulating to the point of system failure?
Your brain avoids this breakdown because it has a dedicated nocturnal cleaning crew. During deep sleep, a process called the glymphatic system becomes exceptionally active. A study in mice revealed a remarkable change. The space between brain cells can widen by over 60%. This expansion allows cerebrospinal fluid to inundate the brain and wash away these harmful toxins. But this is not just about purification, it's also about refueling. The procedure is vital for replenishing your brain's reserves of ATP, its primary energy molecule, in preparation for the upcoming day. You'll begin the day with a cognitive deficit if this cleaning crew can't complete its job. The solution doesn't lie in more willpower, but in giving these janitors an unimpeded path. Research on glymphatic transport in animal models reveals the system operates best when you sleep in a lateral position. Helping your brain dispose of its garbage might be the single most simple systemic shift you can make to feel more empowered. Completing the insight loop. Breakthroughs aren't a passive event to be awaited. They represent a foreseeable biological process you can both initiate and finish. We often mistake the flash of insight for the endpoint, viewing it as a mystical spark that resolves all our problems. In reality, that epiphany is just the halfway mark. When you begin with vigor but lose momentum, it's because you're overlooking the final, crucial stage of the cycle. The process begins with the intense effort described in Chapter 3, a productive struggle fueled by the reward neurotransmitter, dopamine. Once you reach an impasse, the next move is to intentionally step away. Taking a stroll, for example, engages the default mode network we covered in Chapter 2, which allows your mind to forge novel links between existing concepts. And that's when the flash of brilliance occurs. A fresh association is formed, typically accompanied by a surge of norepinephrine for vigilance and a dose of dopamine, producing the sensation of discovery. Studies also suggest the involvement of anandamide, the happiness molecule, which might boost imaginative, divergent thought. The critical question is, what is your plan for the first 5 minutes after this epiphany? Here's the point where most individuals let the opportunity slip away. Because the realization is so delicate, you must instantly secure it to prevent it from being forgotten. The method is to use writing as a cognitive tool, externalizing the concept onto paper to clarify your own understanding of it. This process of deliberate expression is an act of cognition, not mere transcription. It utilizes acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter serving as a temporal mechanism to materially reinforce the new brain connection. You aren't simply preserving the thought. By writing, you are completing its construction, transforming a transient idea into a tangible instrument for making progress. Gaining command, recognizing false proficiency. An afternoon dedicated to watching tutorials or poring over a book can leave you with a gratifying sense of clarity, where everything seems to click. Yet a week later, when you attempt to apply that information to make headway, the insight has vanished. You're left feeling disoriented, forced back to square one. This happens because you're trapped in a dopamine cycle that praises the feeling of learning instead of genuine acquisition. Going over familiar material passively seems productive since it's effortless. Your mind releases a minor hit of satisfaction for simply recognizing information, not for truly understanding it. This phenomenon, which cognitive psychologists label the illusion of competence, is when you confuse ease of recall with genuine expertise. So, what's the practical effect? It results in you collecting disconnected pieces of data rather than constructing what investor Charlie Munger termed a latticework of mental models. This is essentially a structure of foundational concepts from various disciplines that you can employ to tackle challenges. Instead of possessing just a psychology hammer, your toolkit also contains a physics lever and a biology blueprint. Genuine learning is the demanding work of integrating a fresh concept into that existing structure. It's the challenging task of linking something you just acquired to a difficulty you encountered last week. This exertion isn't always pleasant. In reality, a comfortable sense of familiarity should act as a red flag. It's an indication that you're just observing a lone brick instead of constructing a lasting edifice. And it is the precise reason you're constantly starting over, failing to generate any true forward motion. Visual focus, the eye-brain trigger. When you're feeling dispersed and can't find a groove, it's common to treat focus as a contest of willpower we must impose on our thoughts. But what if the key to concentration wasn't located in your mind, but rather in your vision? This concept originates from techniques designed to deliberately enhance memory. The central mechanism involves a neurotransmitter named acetylcholine, the brain's focus molecule. Upon its release, it functions like a spotlight, flagging particular neural pathways for modification, a process known as neuroplasticity. It communicates to the brain, "This experience matters. Retain it." In the absence of this cue, your attempts to learn can easily be lost. The trigger, as it happens, is unexpectedly physical. As neuroscientist Andrew Huberman clarifies, mental concentration is preceded by visual concentration. Recent research supports this, demonstrating that direct visual input prompts a targeted discharge of acetylcholine in the brain's visual cortex.
It's a mechanism you can leverage. The next time you notice your thoughts wandering, pause. Select one tiny spot within your surroundings. Deliberately constrict your field of vision by gazing at it for 30 to 60 seconds. Simply observe it. Don't strain. This straightforward action of visual convergence sends a signal, instructing your brain to discharge the exact molecule required for alertness and plasticity. You are no longer merely attempting to concentrate. You are engaging a biological trigger to generate momentum and finally regain your footing. Shaped for response, not foresight. Insider truth. We've been led to believe that incessant notifications and an overflowing inbox are signs of mental acuity. We accept that being perpetually connected is the cost of advancement. But what if this condition is actively compromising the very architecture of your brain, rendering it inflexible and diminishing its capacity for the one thing that propels you ahead?
A cognitive function exists known as cognitive transfer. It's the capacity to tackle an unfamiliar challenge by drawing upon learning from a totally separate field, the bedrock of all authentic insight. This function depends on a supple, sound brain architecture. Our modern world, however, works in direct opposition to this. The unending stream of alerts induces a state of continuous low-level stress. It's not a full-blown crisis, but a constant drone that ensures your stress hormone, cortisol, remains perpetually high. So, how does this unending chemical exposure truly affect your brain's structure? Studies demonstrate that sustained high cortisol simultaneously impairs the prefrontal cortex, the zone dedicated to your highest order cognition, like intricate planning and mental agility. At the same time, it weakens the hippocampus, the formation crucial for acquiring knowledge and consolidating memories. Constructing the intricate framework of mental models from Chapter 7 becomes an impossibility when the foundational elements themselves are decaying. This condition of perpetual readiness fundamentally re-engineers you. Your brain grows highly adept at responding to the next notification, yet it is structurally unsuited for the profound thinking essential for making progress. You feel unfocused and unable to establish a flow, not from a lack of self-control, but because your brain has been reshaped for reaction over reflection. You're ensnared in a cycle of frenzied action, with a mind built to get through the next 5 minutes, not to architect the next 5 years. Harnessing your brain's natural cycles. You might believe that stepping away from work means you lose momentum.
In reality, it's the refusal to pause that truly derails your efforts. Your brain isn't designed for non-stop performance.
It functions according to inherent cycles of focus and weariness, known as ultradian rhythms, which generally span 90 to 120 minutes. The sensation is familiar. You begin with great energy, but after about an hour, you struggle to find a groove. Your concentration feels fragmented, and trying to power through only makes matters worse. This experience is not a lapse in willpower. It's a physiological cue that we have been conditioned to disregard. The individual who pushes through, remaining tethered to their workstation, is fighting their own biology. In contrast, the person who achieves consistent advancement does something different. They adopt an ebb and flow rhythm, which involves a 90-minute stretch of deep concentration succeeded by a period of intentional rest. This rest is not about mindlessly browsing your device. It requires a genuine pause, such as taking a brief stroll or simply gazing out the window. Such calculated downtime is essential for safeguarding your mental resources. It accomplishes two key objectives. For one, it reduces the neurotoxic cortisol mentioned in the previous section. For another, it engages the default mode network, enabling your brain to consolidate information and forge the novel connections you were just struggling to manufacture. This alternation between intense concentration and recovery is not some clever productivity trick. It's a physiological imperative. It is the method for establishing a framework for consistent forward movement that wards off exhaustion and propels you ahead, day in and day out. You aren't being idle. You are synchronizing your work with the fundamental cadence of cognition. Momentum catalyst. Of what use are principles and routines if you find it impossible to initiate action? You're perpetually waiting for motivation to strike, for an elusive condition to appear that will finally allow you to begin. You experience a sense of being unfocused, delay your tasks, and mistakenly think you're at the mercy of your feelings. This notion is false. You aren't managing your mood, you are managing your neurochemistry. Motivation isn't a passive feeling you anticipate, it's an active chemical condition you generate. The following is a two-part launch process designed to intentionally shift your mind from a state of dispersed inaction to one of concentrated drive. The first step involves activating acetylcholine, which is the neurochemical for concentration. To do this, fix your gaze on one specific spot for 30 to 60 seconds. As detailed in Chapter 8, your mind's concentration mirrors your visual concentration. This isn't a metaphorical concept. Understand that this is a direct neurochemical intervention intended to produce heightened awareness, not a mindfulness practice for relaxation. You're effectively toggling a switch that signals your brain to get ready for a particular activity. The second step is to release dopamine, the molecule of drive. A common error is believing a significant accomplishment is required for a large payoff. In reality, dopamine is secreted during the anticipation and conclusion of an objective, regardless of its size. To generate the drive to proceed, present your brain with a minor, assured victory. Compose a single sentence. Launch the specific file required. Don just one sneaker. This minuscule achievement delivers a jolt of dopamine, which establishes a positive cycle, making the subsequent step less difficult. So that is the progression: acetylcholine followed by dopamine. You begin with concentration, then secure a tiny victory. This is the method for seizing the weight for a suitable feeling, and instead fabricating your own forward motion whenever needed.